Start the morning right with a cup of Vinyl Tap. Nothing beats the refreshing taste of a hot, warm mug of Vinyl Tap. Enjoy your podcast in liquid form today. Vinyl Tap. Enjoy responsibly. Vinyl Tap. I'm Tim, and this month our theme was classic vinyl. Oh, the grand reveal! There they go. Anyway, that was.
Thanks for coming.
Cool, great. Facing the camera, what a genius.
Yeah.
So,
mine's the best.
is it though?
Just look at that.
Are we jumping straight into that discussion?
Well, kind of, yeah, because now it's happening. I mean, look at this. Like, look
What a sexy photograph.
at this. Come on.
Dark Side gets my vote
Yeah,
because
okay.
it's what I wanted to bring, and then Tim claimed it first.
Oh, I was talking about art.
Oh, that too.
Yeah, but like, okay, is this not kind
It's
of boring?
iconic.
I know
It's not boring.
It's too iconic not to win as best art.
It's not at all boring.
It's like permeated pop culture.
Yeah, that's true. Yours definitely sucks the most.
Tim doesn't like it. I think it's nice.
I didn't like the image I was finding on Google. Like
Okay.
it's all right in person. I don't think it sucks.
No,
I
it's not the
I do like
best.
the textured look of the wall and
It's
shit.
better than Zepp 3. That is a train wreck as an artwork,
Yeah.
not as an album.
I think the best of the four is number one with the actual Zeppelin. Anyway,
Yeah.
our theme was classic vinyl, and we all passed because these are all classic vinyls.
Yep.
See you next week.
I was considering bringing Kind of Blue, and then was like, nah.
Why?
Because it was just so
Obvious?
yeah.
I mean, we kind of went with obvious
well, like
choices.
obvious, yes, but also like in terms, I don't know, it's just very jazz.
And that isn't?
In some ways, no. You know, I think
it's a little
bit more spicy, a little bit more because I also like sneak peek into the inner workings.
snork pork.
You two had both bought things that were like pushing boundaries in a lot of ways and doing something that's kind of
Yeah.
Oh yeah?
no.
I think Led Zeppelin 4
Not so
at that
much,
point
right?
they were pretty established.
Yeah.
Maybe you're right. Yeah. Okay.
Pink
Although
Floyd,
that album
sure.
was recorded over the course of like 2 years, 2 and a bit years.
I don't know. Maybe,
Really?
sure. I know that like the whole levy drum still causes arguments, and people just like it. Like in the episode, we spoke about how 4 of the songs are like 4 of their biggest hits.
Yeah.
But I don't know if it's really like pushing boundaries at that point.
Yeah. Okay. Fair
Maybe
enough.
Dark Side of
production
the Moon,
wise.
however.
Dark Side.
Maybe production wise because of the drums, and Dark Side definitely is.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah. Just. It's also the other thing is that like, this is something that I've grown up more than Kind of Blue.
Right.
So I was like, yeah, for me, this is a more established
Yep.
classic for me.
Well, I hadn't heard it. You hadn't heard Dark Side.
No, yeah, I hadn't heard Dark Side.
You hadn't heard all of Zepp 4 either, had you?
No.
Really?
Yeah.
What the fuck's wrong with you?
Got really good taste in music.
Just look at all the
apparently.
choices for Vinyl Tap from him and you'll understand.
Oh, sorry, who brought... fucking mandolin serenade.
Mandolin
You know
Serenade.
what?
I mean, there's a lot wrong with me. I'm not going to deny that.
Led Zeppelin 4 does have a song with 2 mandolins on it, and that can't be discounted. Like, that is
That's
kind
a
of...
negative?
That is kind of pushing a
Oh,
boundary
yeah, I guess. In a rock song.
for a rock album.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Who would ever think to combine mandolin and rock?
Oh,
Crazy,
wow.
crazy idea.
Crazy idea.
that'll make sense in a few months.
Except for our like dedicated 3 viewers will already understand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Love you guys. Wait, so hang on. Neither of you guys had heard this.
No.
Not this one, no.
And is this no, okay, we have done seasons before where no one's heard like the whole thing, right?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. You haven't heard this one.
So why haven't you heard classic foundational music?
Why haven't I heard
Yeah.
Miles Davis?
Uh-huh.
Bitches Brew.
Why haven't I heard
Dark
fucking
Side
Dark
of the
Side?
Yeah.
the second best selling album ever, something like that.
But do you think that's like a common thing?
What, for an album to be the second best-selling album ever? Not really. You can
No,
only-
not that. That like classic music is something that people just skip out on listening because it's so pervasive in like popular culture.
I mean, some people would intentionally avoid it because of its like cult status.
I think
right?
most people will have heard these things just by like cultural osmosis.
Yeah.
You just
Yeah,
but
live
that's-
in
And then
culture
there
and
would
you
be
hear the
people
shit.
who haven't heard it, who know they haven't heard it, who intentionally avoid it
Yeah.
because of its like how famous and pervasive it is. Like they make a stand and point out of, I haven't heard it, I'm not going to. And then there's going to be people that don't like it. Just because it's as popular as what it is doesn't mean that everyone's going to like it.
Like the people who are like hugely against the Beatles. Like,
Yeah.
okay, sure.
And that's fine.
That's other classic music that I haven't really heard too much of. Like, I've never delved deep into the Beatles.
Yeah, I haven't.
There's a bunch of classic hits that I've never even really explored. And
Yeah.
I'm sure the case is stronger for you.
Oh
I
no,
mean, like, just
definitely.
people in general. Like, there's only so much time in a day, and you
Yeah.
only have the experiences that you have, and people show you the music. And unless you're out actively seeking it, or you were of the time where it was big, like,
I just realized these albums, that's 1970, that's 1972, that's 1973.
Oh really?
Yeah. What the
Well, no, okay. So this is sort of where my head's going at with this. Is that like these are all like in a time where you can release a vinyl, and it's got like there's that kind of ritualistic aspect of like putting the vinyl on. You've got the album art. It's important. It's a part like
So you're
the
saying
text
in-
and everything like that. So like part of these classics are the image that they kind of built with
so
themselves.
what you're saying is in 50 years' time, we'll be doing classic Spotify releases.
Is that?
Well, here's the thing.
Yeah,
when I
like-
think about classics of the modern era, and I think about like it is what it is, the image associated with that album, that by Thundercat, for those of you at home counting along, it's like not as striking or memorable as these, and the whole like ritual of listening to it isn't as much of an experience, much as I love the album.
yeah.
Yes, but also that being said, the images with these, I would only argue that like Dark Side is the one that's as pervasive. Like,
Okay, yeah, I
like
agree
the
with that,
others, they're really interesting album covers, but it doesn't like you don't hear the album name and associate that
Yeah.
image
That
specifically.
image, yeah.
Whereas the Dark Side one is just so striking as an artwork and an image.
What if I say perhaps the like most classic record ever, Thriller, and like when I say that, you just see Michael Jackson lying down like that, right?
Sure, but again, it's hard to, it's like a chicken and egg situation, right? Like, is it so ingrained because of how popular it is, or does the image being so good help ingrain it in the popularity in pop culture?
Well, I would say that because albums of the modern era, like a much like as even though marketing is a much like bigger thing with it's so much broader than it used to be. I think albums have less of a singular identity with an image, whereas previously, like you had the album art, you had the single art. Now it's like, well, here's the music and here's my marketing, and like, so because of that, I
Yeah.
think that I'm fucking confused now. What was your question?
It's an interesting point. I was saying it's the chicken or the egg situation, right? Like, does the art help solidify itself because of how good it is, or does because of how big it got solidify the artwork as being attached intrinsically to the album? Like when you hear it, you can see the image of Michael Jackson because of how popular it was, or did the image help make the album larger enough to the point where it was connected?
Well,
Okay, column A, column B. I think that's really
Bit
the
of
only way it's
both?
going to be settled.
I think it's got to be a bit of both, but I think that's a really interesting point because now, like pop artists today, market an image of themselves, and then they have their music, right?
Yep.
So, how did I just immediately forget her name? Miley Cyrus with her, is it Night Walker, the album?
The newest one.
The newest one that's got that real 80s theme to it.
Yeah, and the like black leather glittery aesthetic.
Right. So
I have to listen to a Miley Cyrus
it's so
album
good.
now.
it's really good. It's a
So
great
good.
yeah.
I don't doubt
awesome album. But like, okay, sure, the album art has sort of got the theme, but like her image for that release really changed into this kind of like 80s kind of, I don't know.
She got the mullet.
Yeah, like she changed, and all of her marketing and everything like that fits that. So you look at her and you go, oh, she's doing an 80s thing. And then you listen to her music and you're like, yeah,
the 80s thing.
the 80s thing.
You remember when Phil Collins re-released all of his albums with just pictures of his face?
What?
Yeah, like
no,
everything he ever
I
made.
do
Really?
not.
He just like re-released it with a picture of his. Like, I don't know. Phil, your face isn't that great.
Drumming,
Could you
on the other
imagine
hand.
if Roger Waters reissued Dark Side of the Moon? It was just a picture of Roger Waters' face.
He would do that?
He would do it. Roger Waters, I hate you. I love you.
Oh.
What if what if it was reissued with Phil Collins' face? Would you buy that?
Phil Collins would.
What if Miley Cyrus? What if Miley Cyrus's album had Phil Collins' face?
Just re-release every album ever with a different photo of Phil Collins' face.
You could hack the Spotify database and just replace every album art with Phil Collins' face.
Oh god.
Sounds like a plan. So
Anyway, I think the hard part with album art is you've got to have something that's representative of the music, but it's hard to have that and also have something that's simple enough for people to latch onto and be engaging. Like, I think the big thing for the Pink Floyd is it's so simple and memorable. Like, the artwork on the other two is cool and interesting, but you could basically draw the Pink Floyd one from memory, right?
Yeah.
You don't have to be an artist to draw that, or at least give a good impression of it. Michael Jackson one, yeah, he's lying down in a seductive pose in, like, it's red leather, isn't it? For that one.
I can't remember.
Yeah,
Is
like
it-
the
or is
wavy.
he in white?
I can't remember.
he's in white. Yeah.
He's in white.
Okay, yeah. Yeah.
But, like, it's stuff that you can tangibly remember and vocalize and have as an image. Whereas, like, the Miles Davis one is sick art, but it's very busy. And
Yeah.
the Led Zeppelin one here, it's like, it's interesting, but it's nothing like super striking visually.
Quite see how it relates to the content of the album.
Yeah, see, actually, this is like a Led Zeppelin album art problem that I have. Right? Is that, like, a lot of the time it's very kind of busy and intense, and it's hard to work out what the hell is actually going on. And it's sort of hard to recognize that it is Led Zeppelin in a lot of ways. And, like, I think there's a bit of a danger, like, because this, if, like, Pink Floyd, I don't know, if this album didn't work out, it's just a black thing with, like, an image on it. And it's like, I don't know.
Okay. But it happens to be one of the
Were
biggest
they
albums ever.
established when they released?
Yeah.
Yeah.
that?
Oh hell
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
So okay, so then you can get away with dropping something and not having a name on it.
Yeah.
And doing like a white album thing.
I mean, that was kind
The
of
White
the
Album
point.
had the Beatles on it.
Yeah.
Did it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The album's called The Beatles.
I thought it didn't have any text on it.
No, it's called The White Album because like it's called The Beatles. That's the name of the album.
Right.
Yeah.
Where is the text on it? Isn't the front just a blank white?
Nah. Don't think so.
Or am I getting that confused with shit, hang on. It's Spinal Tap. Yeah, I got that right.
That is confusing. That is confusing.
Where they released like the Black Album, which was literally it's just black.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a great album actually.
It's called The Beatles.
It's called The Beatles.
Right.
Is the word that it is.
Yeah.
It's right there in the center right. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Cool. Well, I'll shut the fuck up then.
But that still is a pretty brave move.
To just do
Have a
just
white thing with just the Beatles.
Yeah.
I mean, they were established at that point as well, though,
Yeah,
weren't they?
you reckon, yeah.
you can't really do that
Beatles
kind of
mania had
like
taken off.
you can't really do that kind of move today,
Oh,
right?
So many of them have been done.
I was going to say,
Yeah.
you'd have to find your original stand, right?
But it's
even
but you're making an image of yourself, not an album image, right? Because like think about like people might know songs from these albums, but never listen to the whole album.
yeah.
So, like, that whole album kind of experience is sort of a bit detached these days.
Which is
A
what
little
we're all
bit.
about. We're here
Yeah.
for the album.
But
That's
here's-
what Vinyl Tap's about.
Childish Gambino, his last release was
Never heard of him.
last year or the year before. He released, it was literally just a white image, and I think there was like, I can't remember how many songs, but all of them except for one were just the time codes they started at. That was the title of the song.
Right. Yeah.
So that says like, not only am I trying to remove an image from this, but like any names or anything, like making it as to the point as possible. And that in a way is kind of inescapable of not being reminded that it's from a broader context, unless you're only listening to the title track, or the first track on the album.
Kind of like a 433 in modern terms, where
A little bit.
like the point of the piece is that it exists in a world where it exists.
Right.
Anyway,
Another classic song.
433.
Yeah. You should check it out.
That you can't even make a joke about on an album without it being copyright,
I can't believe
which
that.
is hilarious.
Wait, really?
I can't remember what band, but they jokingly put like a track of
silent
silence on their album, and I don't know if
And
they
they
got
got
sued for
copyrighted.
it or if it had to. Yeah, it's the same as like
a cease and
on
desist.
YouTube. If you chuck it up as like 433, it'll get claimed by whoever has the rights to it, and
really?
it'll say it used to when they silenced videos. Used to say this video has been silenced because of a copyright claim, which
That's
is
incredible.
Yeah,
I think the best part of that is that it's like making a total mockery of the entire point of Cage's work.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
what do you think of
so
classic
off topic.
Classic
vinyl
vinyl.
as a theme? Is this a productive way of finding and enjoying music?
to an extent. It's the first time we've done it. There's everything to choose
Yeah,
from.
I would encourage people to go back and troll through classics. I think that's
I
a
actually think it's like
productive
really,
thing to do.
for me, it was really educational to like hear,
Actually, listen to Dark Side.
actually listen to Dark Side and just like, because like it's an inescapable part of culture. Like I know
Yeah.
all about Dark Side, but
But you hadn't heard it.
I hadn't heard it, and so like it puts a lot of shit into context, and like I now actually have a grounded point for when people are like, oh yeah, like I have like this Pink Floyd influence, and you're like, right, that's what that
it is.
sounds.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now you have like a box.
Yeah. Whereas like before, I was like, yeah, I know what that means.
Yeah.
There's just no fucking clue.
Pink Floyd, that's the one they go,
Yeah.
with the guitar. Yeah, that's them.
Yeah.
They just bending
Yeah.
strings a lot.
Bend
We're
it
the,
like
we're the Benders. And here's our newest album, Black Cover. And you also got the opportunity to be completely wrong about going to California.
yeah. I actually stand by that.
I think you just hate the mandolin.
Yeah. It's a shit
It's all
instrument.
coming to a head.
Yeah.
It's a shit instrument for shit people.
I would never play with a mandolin player ever.
Good thing I'm a guitarist.
Hey. What was your experience, Tim?
That'll make sense in a few months. Well, I'm deeply familiar with both of these albums, and like I know Miles Davis. I've seen him on the street. We hang out, but I hadn't listened to this one in particular. And yeah, it was good. Yeah.
Yep.
I really did enjoy dissecting these albums that I was so familiar with already, and getting to talk about. I mean, I love both of them, and I'm sure I could come to love this if I were to devote as much time to it. So these albums are classics for a reason. It's not like it's just because they're old, right?
I mean, that's part of it.
Thousands and thousands of albums were released between 1970 and today, and how many of them are classics?
How far back does it have to go to be considered a classic, right? Like,
I would-
if you brought Katy Perry, One of the Boys, like you've been speaking about for so long, would that have passed the test of classic?
Well, I mean, that's up to you, because, we put that to the vote. But I would say, on some level, it is. It is a classic album.
right. So
I would call Hot Fuss, Absolution,
Yeah, but
Yeah.
they're like close to 20 years old, so that's probably within the ballpark.
Making me feel old.
Yeah.
American
yeah.
Idiot.
Like, yeah, but,
But again,
that's why
that's
I'm
still,
trying to
like-
figure. No, I'm saying 20 years old is probably long enough. I'm saying, like, where's the cutoff point? Like, if someone was to bring in Thundercat, how would we feel
I
about
don't
that?
know. I'm kind of in like Team Tim here.
Yeah.
I think that
I'm
like,
not arguing, I'm
something-
asking
yeah,
for the
no, I think
crowd's
something
opinion.
can have a classic sound because like
It just stands out.
okay, so will like Harry Styles' new album,
It's probably going to be a classic.
that'll be a classic, and you could almost
Taylor's version of
Taylor's, like-
Fearless Taylor's version.
could you like consider that a classic now because it's already
mean,
got the popularity.
People
that's
talk
an
about things
interesting-
being instant classics, right?
Right? Yeah.
This
yeah.
album was an instant classic.
But you can say that, but you don't know until down the line whether it is or isn't.
True. You can't. Yeah.
Okay.
You can
Yeah,
apply
but-
that label, but it doesn't really mean
Anything.
much.
Yeah.
So then are any of these albums classic?
Yeah.
Well,
Yes,
Yeah.
they are.
I mean,
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, we're only 50 years down the road, though, right? Like,
Only
we don't
50
know.
years.
Well, I mean, only because it's Bach, isn't it? Bach, who wasn't popular until like ages after his death.
Bach was like he was a very comfortably living composer in his time.
I'm not knocking.
He
any
only
of that.
became like a global superstar, 110 or so years after his death.
Right, and
pretty
so
good,
but
people
also-
in his day when he died wouldn't have been like, he's going to be the it composer that
Yeah.
everyone knows.
But I think it's a completely different culture because you don't have recorded music. And
Okay.
I think recorded music like this gives you an opportunity to create classics, right? Because you can like you put it down.
You don't have to go to the opera.
You don't have to go to the opera to fucking
So
see
what
it,
we're
you
getting
know?
at here is classic is a very broad and
New.
a term that different people will apply in different ways.
Yeah, so much like all of our conversations about genre is that if you try and look into the term deeply in any significant way, it breaks down.
I think the main
no longer
takeaway from
applies.
Vinyl Tap is that language is fluid. and like the language we use to talk about music, which itself is very nebulous and abstract and difficult to comprehend because it's so multifaceted and like ingrained in deep parts of our brain. It's so difficult to actually hack away at it with this disgusting language we've formed together. So like we just don't have the facilities to actually describe the... Anyway,
Yeah,
I vote for me.
I would vote for Tim too.
I mean, I
you vote for
started the
Team Three?
episode. I wanted to pick the album.
So this is a Pyrrhic victory for me because like I mean I brought Dark Side of the Moon. Of course I'm like that's unfair. I don't feel good is what I'm saying.
What could have topped it?
There'd be a lot of Beatles stands out there who'd probably say one of the
Like
Beatles.
Revolver.
Yeah, or even Sgt. Pepper's, right?
I might have had a better time listening to something like Thriller. I might have just enjoyed that more because, the entire conceit of that album is a record where every song is a hit,
Yeah.
Whereas this is more contemplative, meandering, dwelling, which like gives it a bigger impact overall, but moment to moment it's probably less compelling.
Maybe, which is the big Nirvana one, In Utero?
I think
Never.
so.
Is that the big one?
Yeah.
And then Nevermind.
That's not the album though, is it?
Yeah. It's one of them, isn't it? That's an album name.
Maybe, I don't know.
Whatever album has the kid in the water.
You all know the cover. Again,
Yeah,
and a classic
cover,
image
yeah.
associated with,
But yeah, I'm not surprised that Dark Side gets a
yeah.
100%
Yeah,
win.
it also for me has a classic sound. Maybe it's the 70s. Maybe I consider 70s classic.
Does that make you feel old bad?
Click above to find out what else we've listened to this month.
Click below to support the artist we just listened to.
And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss our next episode.